We are live. So, welcome everybody to this side event at COP27 Sharm el Sheikh. We are privileged to have with us three very distinguished experts today to speak about measuring the impact of cleantech or climate tech solutions. They are Bram van Grieten, Martin Schott from Impact Forecast, and Sanya Rousseau from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, a climate expert as well. So welcome to our distinguished panel, and welcome to the guests here today. Firstly, my name is Vishnu Makur. I also am from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. I am the coordinator of the program called the Global Cleantech Innovation Program, which is operating in 15 developing countries at the moment. And what we're doing is essentially to accelerate startups and small businesses that have great innovations in climate technology, and we also work with the ecosystems around them to be able to advance those ecosystems, strengthen them in order to best support these startups with great new innovations that can help us on our way to a low carbon future. So this session is part of a series of release sessions that the Global Cleantech Innovation Program is running. Previously on Tuesday we had an event which was specifically looking at challenges, global challenges and innovation challenges that we can set out for small businesses and startups to take part in and to contribute to these global challenges. And we were talking about how do we best design these kind of challenges so that we get maximum impact from them. And this is another session that builds on that, where we look at how do we actually measure what the difference is that small businesses are making. How can small businesses and startups actually get into the business of finding out how we impact our environment. We are also in partnership with Climate Tech One. We have the finalists here as well. In order to learn from this experience from GCIP, and we've got some GCIPs alumni as well to also contribute and to learn from this experience. But ultimately, our panel will tell us about this impact framework. Will tell us about how startups will benefit from the impact framework. Will tell us about how this kind of knowledge around impact and calculations about how to help small businesses raise funding, because ultimately this is an element that funders and financiers want to know about. They want to know what impact you're going to make. So we will share with you some case studies from pilot as well on 12 companies that we've worked with before. And so we will have a 1 hour discussion approximately. I think it's 50 minutes of the discussion. But firstly, we'll have a panelist sharing with you some ideas of what has been done, what the framework looks like, what the examples look like. And then for our audience here and from those online, we'll create an opportunity to discuss with the panelists some of the key questions you may have on calculate the impact that your small business or your startup is able to show and work out for themselves. So, without further ado, without further ado, hand over to our first expert, Sanya Rousseau from UNIDO, to tell us why it is important to measure impact. especially for small business and startups to fulfill the economic goals.
Audio quality is not so great, but I hope you can hear me well. My name is Sanyang. I am one of the technical experts working on the GCIP team, and I would first want to explain the relevance of the GCIP impact assessment framework and why it's important to have this discussion at the climate change conference today. So measuring impact is a way to collect and create meaningful data. And availability of meaningful data is important in any type of decision making, but especially when it comes to engaging with cleantech innovations to unlock the transformative potential of technologies for a net zero future, estimating the impact potential, and then verifying the actual impact achieved supports decision making for all ecosystem actors. And here are some highlights of why it is important and relevant for each stakeholder group. Communicating the impact potential of their solution is very important for cleantech enterprises. First of all, it increases the credibility of their cleantech solution, and globally recognized impact data can also communicate comparative advantage over their competitors. And accurately calculated impact data also provides a reference point for improvement and upgrading of cleantech solutions so that they can achieve higher impact. Secondly, verified impact data can support decisions of investors and financial institutions, as the data will increase investor confidence in cleantech solutions and enterprises, and it can be instrumental in closing the gap between perceived and real risk of cleantech investment and financing decisions. And at a higher level, globally recognized and verified impact assessment framework can influence the shift of mainstream investment criteria to incorporate impact decisions. For the cleantech ecosystem as a whole, comparable impact data can strengthen the position of cleantech solutions and enterprises as viable options in the market in relation to other conventional solutions and enterprises. And the comprehensive impact assessment framework that encompasses environmental, social, and economic business dimensions supports the cleantech ecosystem to confirm its relevance and also measure its progress. And for enterprise support initiatives like GCIP, it serves as a management and reporting tool. And the ability to calculate the impact potential of innovations allows the right solutions to be supported towards commercialization and scale-up. And tracking the actual impact achieved allows us to assess the efficacy of GCIP interventions. And at the program level, reporting on the impact achieved allows us to also measure our contribution to UNIDO's mandate and to the contribution to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement as well. So in order to reap these benefits of evidence-based impact data that is transparent and verifiable, GCIP is developing an impact assessment framework through which we will capture 3 key dimensions of impact: the environmental, the social, and the economic. And data collection and monitoring points will be at 4 different levels: at the solution level, at the enterprise level, at the country, and also at global levels. And the GCIP impact assessment framework development started in the summer of this year in partnership with Impact Forecast. And today's session is an opportunity for us to share the progress to date and the insights gained so far. And so now I'd like to hand over to Martin from the Impact Forecast to introduce the key elements and the key approach of the GCIP impact assessment framework. Thank you.
Martin, are you ready for us? Hi, Martin.
Hello. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you very well. Thank you.
Great. So thanks for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here today with you. my name is Martin. I'm based in Austria, part of Impact Forecasts project team for the design of the GCIP Impact Assessment Framework, as Sanjung already pointed out. And I'm happy to start with a general overview and a quick introduction to our approach. As Sanjung already touched, understanding impact on different levels and dimensions is becoming more and more important, not only to the companies, but also to ecosystem actors like investors or program managers. And therefore, impact must not be a gut feeling or a marketing claim, but a real measurable, understandable, and transparent factor. And for that, it's needed that impact indicators must set with clear goals and especially with transparent calculation methodologies. A cleantech business model or solution must deliver positive, holistic impact throughout its life cycle without causing significant harm in others. So an impact assessment framework must be smart. And lean.
Are you
Yep.
able to change the slide? Are you using the slide forward? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can control the slides. So,
Okay, good.
as you can see on this slide, we designed a framework that has different stages for the startups and different levels for reporting the results from the work with the startups, but also from the program itself. You see from left to right the development of the companies over time and as they go through the different stages. And in parallel, we designed reporting processes and trainings to get results from the work and also to be able to work with the data that we are collecting throughout the implementation of the impact framework. And these are shown as the connections or the lines between the stages and the stakeholders outside of the funnel. And this funnel approach, I want to highlight a bit more. So the stages 0 to 2. And as you can see here, the goal is to get a real understanding of the impact indicators and make them comparable. So in step 0, it starts with an easy-to-use tool that is also scalable to handling lots of applicants. And the goal is that these applicants deliver data that can be compared for the selection. And then within the program, step 1 and 2 are already within the designed to train and also to help the companies, but also the program itself to get more details on the basis of a self-assessment, but also in addition with an external support and a review during the validation step. So it's a combination of a self-assessment, but also with an expert input through the validation that are validating and verifying claims and assumptions the companies are making. This helps also to understand the business models and especially the impact cases. And my key messages for my short introduction are the following 3. On the one side, the selection with an impact framework or the impact assessment framework, especially the GCIP, supports the decision making on the basis of data, of comparable data, and that helps to take transparent and informed decisions. Second is the support. This funnel approach, as I showed, is making it easy also for the companies that are part of the program to understand what is going on, what the next steps are, and what is coming to help them further develop their impact case. And it's also scalable to a lot of participants. And the third one is the monitoring. It's a process that is recurring, and it's updating and monitoring, or it's possible to monitor impact data, and that also helps the program to understand what the companies are doing, what the program is supporting, and also to refine the strategy of the program to scout and select and support, of course, the companies in the most impactful sectors. These were main messages for the introduction, and I'm happy to hand over to Bram to give you a bit more insight to our pilot we tested within the first work with GCIP, and to present some other cases. Bram, please.
Yep. Thank you, Martin, and thank you to the GCIP for this invitation. I'm glad to be here to introduce a little bit about the content of the impact framework that Martin has just sketched for you. So let's dive into a case study where one of the companies has gone through the stages hypothesis and forecast and validation. On the next slide, we can see Save World Energy. The mission of Save World Energy is to increase the access to power supply, especially for SMEs and for individual homes in rural areas, to solve the problems of interrupted power supply in Nigeria. And this information, the text you can see on the screen, comes from the impact hypothesis, which is the scalable tool for any number of applicants. We can gather these kinds of statements where you can see it continues. Their innovation uses solar inverter solutions. And down below on the same paragraph, you can see that they've indicated the EU taxonomy activity as well as the SDGs. And this all happens in a standardized format. So when you're receiving many applications, it will be convenient that all of them have the same structure, and they're easier to digest and compare if you need to make a selection. This team was selected on the basis of this impact hypothesis, which also includes a calculation of their climate impact. And because they were selected, they were enrolled into the next part where the impact forecasting has happened. So on this slide, you can see that Save World Energy provides access to power supply in Nigeria with the Green Market Hub, which is an online application, a renewable energy marketplace that enables customers to buy solar and inverters and batteries and installation services with a flexible payment plan, instead of using generators that are now used in combination with fossil fuel, both by homes and businesses, to catch the drops in electricity supply. And the impact is assessed at a scale of 1,500 households with an average electricity consumption of 1,250 kilowatt hours, as you can see. And this information comes from the scope statement of the climate impact forecast. So this company was enrolled, and currently we're looking at their climate impact, which isn't all of the impacts. You can see on the next slide some more details about this climate impact assessment. So this is for that case study, Save World Energy. And this is part of the calculation and validation software that they've used to calculate their climate impact themselves. And you can also see green tick marks, which is where the validator has approved these assumptions are representative for the kind of differences that this company is making in the real world. So going over that line by line, this is a simple company that, or at least this company can be expressed in simple terms when it comes to their impact assessment. And the first line is the use of PV panels, where you can see that even though PV panels do not emit CO2 as you're using them, they do emit CO2 as you're producing them. So that's where we get 0.025 and something kilograms of CO2 equivalent associated with every megajoule that is being used here. And as you can see here, that gives a bit of a red score in the final column, but that is easily compensated by the reduction in the use of petrol on the second row. So using petrol and then also combusting it, you can see that there is a green impact associated with that. And on the last line, there are also electricity costs associated with running the online platform that are easily accommodated within the reduced greenhouse gas emissions from not using petrol as an energy source. So this is the information that teams are working on in an impact forecast, and this is an iterative process. So as you can see on the next slide, this wasn't their first attempt. In fact, it was their most recent one. We can see here for the same company, 4 results during the program. So initially they were onboarded with the hypothesis, but an almost immediate step afterwards is to have a workshop where at that moment they were considering 10 homes of 3,750 kilowatt hours. And this gives them an impact of 7.7 tons. However, we then sat with them and had a coaching conversation, which allowed them to adjust the amount of users to 2,500, and later you can see to 3,000, but on the final revision, we went a bit more conservative with 1,500 as the projected scale of the amount of customers that Save World Energy can address in a year. As you can see, the impact is increasing with the improvement of coaching and later with the hand-in of validation. So there's more and more impact. However, some of these assumptions were a bit too optimistic, and with the help of an LCA expert and through the validation process, this ultimately gets moderated to a more realistic minus 140 tons, which we validated. So you can see here the progression of a team understanding more and more through iteration and through impact expert support what their actual climate impact is and what it depends on. I'm bringing forward a second case to show you how this looks in progress. So on the next slide, you can see Retreasure. They enable recyclers, that is recycling companies, aggregators, pre-processors, to access source segregated recyclables by providing unique recycling kits. So the differences made by Retreasure are in the collection system, and this is where they create a cleaner recyclable stream. On the next slide, you can see that Retreasure is currently in an ongoing validation. So this is their climate impact forecast, and a few things are interesting to note here. Firstly, this is not the final result, so it's not necessarily representative of their impact just yet. And you can see what an impact forecast looks like when the validator, so a third-party LCA expert, reviews it and highlights not just green tick marks, but maybe question marks and exclamation marks for things that need to be resolved. And in the bottom left corner, you can also see that there are eco costs, which not all of them are green. So only the bottom number, which is the eco cost for the carbon footprint, is a green impact. That is to say, there are fewer emissions in the greenhouse gas emission category. But for resource depletion and ecotoxicity and human health, there are actually additional environmental costs associated with running this business model. For example, coming from the use of glass fiber for the vehicle itself that does the collection and sorting. So you can see how the result overall can look nice and clean, but this is some of the results in process. And we can draw from this pilot, which we've done with 12 companies that progressively improved the impact assessments, not just on climate, but also on the SDGs and the EU taxonomy alignment, and draw a few insights from them on the next slide. So I'm showing here an overview. The image is an overview that Martin also showed before, where you can see a few of these 12 teams compared side by side. And we can see Save World Energy on top with already valid and positive and significant results. So they have finished the entire process, whereas you can also see companies in a red and a yellow mark that are still in validation, so still proceeding. What we learned from speaking with the entrepreneurs that we've guided through this process, that we're designing and tweaking for the application in the GCIP project, is that entrepreneurs who are proposing impact solutions actually quite enjoy working with these tools. They report good ease of use. They report that they get interesting and insightful impact insights. So the ability to adjust their designs and their business model to improve the overall life cycle impact. And this is a way to improve it, but also to show this impact. And all of it is in rather short interactions, so that makes it hopefully easy to digest. We also know that climate impact can be surprising. So as we're making iterations on these impact forecasts, there's often significant change because impact might come from surprising angles, or it might be surprising which part of the business model actually end up contributing most to its overall impact. The support that we provide with LCA Expert is greatly valued. So it's helpful to the participants, the entrepreneurs themselves, benefit from having LCA experts available in coaching conversations and in validation procedures. And we can also see from the differences that we saw with Save World Energy, how impactful this can be on the evaluation of the climate impact of a company. So this is where we think that only validated results can really be considered comparable if you want to select the most impactful companies given a certain amount of investment budget. So impact calculations can improve over time and with support. And as you can still see with this list, although some of the results are in progress, the impact between different impact companies can differ quite significantly, often by orders of magnitude. So 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times more impactful is something we often see. And this we thought is important for investors to be aware of when they're making selection decisions. So with that, I would like to hand it back to the moderators and see if we can have a discussion around these topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Martin. Can you still hear me well? Yes. So we have some questions. There's also an audience here that may have some questions for you around some of the presentations you've made. But maybe I'll just kick it off, having listened to Bram now around the actual results of some of the case studies we've done with real companies, with real alumni from the program. Are there limits to this approach of self-assessment? What do you think the strengths and weaknesses are when companies self-assess in the way we're proposing at the moment? Either Martin or John.
I could not understand enough of that to give you a reply.
Again, are there limits to a self-assessment approach? What strengths and weaknesses are there in this approach where we are asking companies to basically take it upon themselves to enter the data and to get the outcome that we understood well?
Well, I understood that the question is about limitations, and I can talk about the limitations of the impact forecast methodology, which is based on life cycle assessment methodology, and this is a very flexible and accommodating methodology. So there's no limitation to the kinds of business models or the kinds of sectors or technology types that you can model in this particular way. There are perhaps limitations when it comes to very new technologies for which the baseline research has not been done. So there's not enough data to make really good calculations, but you can still make assessments also for those systems.
Thanks, Ron. Are you still finding it difficult to hear me?
Yes.
Bring the mic up a bit. Okay. What about investors? Do they know that this kind of data exists? Would they trust this kind of the analysis that is happening? Would they trust the numbers that come out? Do they consider that this kind of information is a risk mitigation tool for them? So how do investors see this data? Natalie?
So I'll take this question. I hope you approached me with it. And what I got is the question about the connection to the investor ecosystem. So what we have seen in the past is that the interest about impact data has been increased and is still rising, especially also as policy is changing on that. And that impact data is also now an important part of taking decisions, but also reviewing the work of financial institutions and therefore also investors. So there is an impact investor ecosystem already, and they are very capable and of course informed about different standards, classifications and data sets. But also the standard as usual, I would say, investor ecosystem is getting more and more interested in impact data, and especially in comparing it. So as on the business side and financial side, so with numbers about revenues and such things, also comparable impact data is a topic that is very important, as they not only want to make money, but also having impact with their investments.
Thank you, Martin. I hope you guys can hear me a bit quicker now. No? Yes? Let's see. So we know there are a number of tools, similar tools. How comparable are these tools? How similar are they? Can we expect sort of a standardized way of looking at impact data and calculating this for various types of technologies? Are these tools converging? Are these tools converging? Either Martin, Kenyon, or Bram, anyone here.
What I picked up from this question was the words tools and standardization. So, how comparable and standardized are the existing tools and the data they collect and validate? Thanks, that's very helpful. So, the benefit of having tools in the first place is that the methodologies can be interpreted in many ways. So if you just use the LCA methodology or impact assessment methodology, different researchers will come up with different answers, and that makes them uncomparable unless you're using the same details of methodology and also same data sets. So tools can help to standardize the results, and that makes them comparable and makes them ultimately useful for the decision of where to invest if you want to optimize for a positive impact. And the benefits of having multiple tools is that different companies might have different effects and interests, but also for different programs we want to accommodate different impact indicators. So, for example, as Sun Young has introduced, we're looking at an economic, an environmental, and a social aspect of impact. And in this short presentation, we've highlighted some of these environmental aspects. But to create a more holistic and complete picture, you need to address this with multiple tools.
Thank you, John. And maybe this can be what are you thinking for entrepreneurs to be able to update this kind of data over time? I mean, initially, maybe good to get a bit of money and to build your impact team investor. But what kind of incentives are there, in your view, to entrepreneurs to continuously update their data and continuously look for what kind of impact they are making in society and ultimately the planet?
To whom is this question directed?
Well, if someone could answer, I know of any of you could give us some feedback on that, and it was great. We're not really someone at the moment. While we connect your someone, perhaps Ram or Martin, regarding the incentive to entrepreneurs who are small businesses to continuously update the data. What are the incentives? How should entrepreneurs look at this exercise other than just raising initial funding? We're not able to hear from you, unfortunately. We're not able to hear you.
I can take it still. What I got from the question is the incentives for startups to also continue with the work afterwards being part of the program, and maybe also as a very important part of the framework is the self-assessment approach, that startups or companies are really working with the calculations on their own, with the help and the training from the program and from us. So they're not only calculating results and numbers, but really understand also their impact case, and can then therefore also take informed decisions about their business model. And this is, I guess, a strong incentive to also come back after a certain period of time to again report and check what happened, maybe also get feedback on the decisions made after a year or 2 years. But also let me give the question to the audience. What would be an incentive for you? What would motivate you to update also, for example, on a yearly basis, such impact data in a platform or within a program's platform? That of course would also help us to design the framework in a better way. So maybe you can collect some highlights from the audience and share it back to us.
We already have one question here. So I'll move into there's another question in the back. So please go ahead. Sorry, the answer is good. I'm not teaching this concept to look at the impact of cleantech solutions to develop the positive benefits of this. Usually, systems we have done for the third world energy, we also include the emissions of doing the business. If a solar home system energy solar system is broken, and they need to go and provide maintenance services, we also include the emissions that are associated with the business of ensuring that we deliver your solar home system to different communities. And on this, I think my second question was how originally we want to upgrade this data. Is this scalable? Can I make new things? Because businesses are different. I think we need to adapt to the different operations. On this, I think the willing power that is required to do this important work, we have one new operation. What we need to and we try to continue to put some willing power into this. Able to understand the question. Daniel Martin Ram. So, firstly,
I could not understand the reply or the question. So sorry.
So the first question is about in the calculation, do you include the operations of the business, the day-to-day operations of the business in terms of its impact, climate impact, not only the product? Is that clear?
I could pick up the word feedback, so I could I could address how we deal with feedback during the process, but a lot got lost in the noise, I think. If it is possible for someone to type the gist of, oh yeah, from the studio. Do we account the greenhouse gas emissions in the operation of the business itself? Thanks for that question. Yes, we do. So this is recognized as scope 1, 2, 3 assessments, and the climate impact forecast does encompass all of these scopes, even the fourth scope of reduced emissions. And for a company, a startup company, I would say that the operations of the business and the operations for the product, they match up one-to-one because the business is creating the product. So indeed, the operations, for example, running the digital infrastructure for the Safe World Energy is included in the greenhouse gas emissions. And how regularly someone needs to report depends on the audience that they are reporting to. So if they're in a really time-bound program where there's a lot of milestones, the reporting intervals could be tied to those milestones. Otherwise, I would say every time your product changes. So the idea of creating these impact insights is to create better products and to make them more and more impactful in the sense that they reduce greenhouse gas emissions or add more social change or create better economic conditions. So every time you change something about the technology or the business model is a good moment to update also the impact.
And I think the third question, if nobody is able to type it in the chat box, the third question was about how much time does it take for a person to do this exercise regularly? Is there a lot of person power time to engage this kind of exercise? Because we know small businesses are very restricted when it comes to person power, time, etc. So what would be your take on that?
If I could answer that, it's the primary reason that we are creating impact frameworks and also created this forecasting methodology, because at the scale that the GCIP is operating, we cannot ask all of these entrepreneurs for a great deal of time. So we are very aware that all of this needs to happen in quite compact interactions. We teach the methodology and how to use it and all the theory behind it in a single day. And after that, to make an assessment could take 1 hour or 2 hours if you have all of the technical details already available. So that makes it really quite fast and a lot faster than traditional impact assessments, which can take weeks or months to conclude.
And maybe I add to that also that is connected to the program. So the impact framework is part of the program and therefore also connected to training and coaching. So it's not only that it's an exercise of calculation, as said, or of additional work, but it's really part of the training. So it should not add up to a lot of additional work, but more an in parallel work of doing or of building the solution or building the company and report the results and the findings from the work. And that is also helping not only the program to understand what is going on, but also the companies, again, as I said, to understand the business case in detail, also on an impact level.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Björn. Unfortunately, Samuel, I still can't hear you, but can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Brilliant. I think we have 2 more questions from the audience here, so I'll just move the mic there.
Thank you so much. So my question is, like, when we are talking about the impact of the cleantech solution, sorry. So how do we also look at more closely? How do we also look at de-risking some of these cleantech solutions? Because eventually the adopters will be, the industries or the small businesses, and they need to have more trust on the cleantech solutions because they need to understand and see how they try to adopt some of these solutions. So, and they don't come with the deep pockets and bandwidth to actually get into something which is very new. So how do we try to de-risk some of these cleantech solutions, and how do we measure the impact of those solutions as well from the enterprise level? One is the discussion is more on like supply side. How do we fund the startups? How do we fund the clean tech solutions? But there is another side which is the demand side or the user side. So how do we fund that side also so that it balances out both the cases?
How do we fund? How do we de-risk? And this is for the panel perhaps, or if there's someone in the audience that can help with an answer. Not only de-risking the enterprise that is providing the solution, how do we ensure that there's a risk mitigation and a de-risking on the demand side when it comes to adopting these clean tech solutions? I mean, this may be an impact related question, it may be a funding and programmatic related question. So perhaps firstly, from an impact perspective, do you have a point of view there?
Yeah, I think I do. So one way to de-risk and impact innovation is to make sure from very early on that you have a grip on its impact. So if you're promising social change or you're promising adaptation impact or mitigation impact, this needs to be visible and calculated from a very early stage. Otherwise, you risk building a company around an innovation that appears in practice not to be more sustainable than the already existing alternative. And that is actually more common than you would think, because it's just a complex field of science. On the other hand, de-risking the buyer side, I would say there is some work to be done with a lot of conservative buyers that are just doing as they've always done. And it's up to the startup entrepreneurs and also SMEs to provide evidence of the success of their solutions, which I don't think pivots really on the impact claims that they're making, but just on the financial proposition and the quality of their products.
Are there any other questions? I see another hand in the back. Yeah? Oh, you typed the question already.
Yeah. I see the question on the flexibility of repayment requirements for companies. And in this situation, the payment is not required from the company itself. So GCIP is creating a framework and opportunities for companies to enlist and be supported in this way. So that I think lowers the threshold and also makes the potential impact of the project much larger, because we do of course want to hand these tools to entrepreneurs. And another question is, how do grassroots companies access this impact assessment tool? Through the GCIP program. So we're building this framework out and building a platform as well, where all applicants to the GCIP project can administer their hypothesis for free and then be enrolled in a situation where they're also receiving coaching and validation.
Yeah, thank you, Bram. There's another question. Yeah. My name is Benjamin from Nigeria. Yes. We work with the Women Development Program. My question is, how do you partner with NGOs? That's the first question. The second question was, how easy is it for these rural women to access this particular fund for a startup? Because accessing the fund is all about taking the message to the grassroots, but how do they access the fund? How is it for them to access this fund to start the startup fund for the business? So the question is not only accessing the technologies and the businesses, but if from a programmatic, from a fund perspective. So when you have a fund that does some work, when we have a program that does some work, how do we make sure that we understand the impact of the fund or a program rather than individual businesses? And will this tool essentially be more available to marginalized communities, rural communities, and entrepreneurs.
I know I can take the question. Okay, then
Thank you.
from a funds perspective, this is what we produce impact reports for, and also impact insights, as well as a monitoring environment in the client portal. So we are built around serving funds that want to create positive impact, and that is what we are talking here about. So the GCIP is a fund, and they are trying to understand the cumulative impact of all of the projects they're supporting, and also interested to know what their nationality is. So how does their funding unlock the impact?
Thank you, John. The second part of the question is just accessibility to other communities, rural communities, for such a tool.
Through the GCIP, we're making this tool available also with an emphasis on rural enterprise. So they will be onboarded into a framework and provided with these tools. We hope to be able to create more availability through collaborations like these.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? Chris, I'm part of a company called Inseco. We are an alumni from the GCIP program based out of Cape Town. One of the questions I wanted to ask was, in this whole process, where do you consider marketing and that as a tool with which you can engage with the corporates? One of the things that we found very successful in our project is that, we have built up the business to a certain stage. Now we are interacting with the corporates. We're asking them what they want, and then we're going back and developing products that are best suited for them. So maybe that's sort of two questions, but the one really is around that whole pillar of marketing and promotions within this framework.
So it's part of sort of the framework on the one side to understand and to train the understanding of the data, and therefore also to and do marketing with it. So it's really also a goal of the impact framework to make impact data as a marketing instrument. So it's also integrated, for example, as an impact pitch training. And the second part I did not get. Sorry, second question. But maybe it also answers.
Yeah, I think that covers it for now. Thanks, Martin. Because I think we are running out of time now. We need to wrap up. I want to say thank you to everybody for contributing. Just so that everybody knows, the question came up a few times. We are Global Cleantech Innovation Program. Impact Forecast is working with us to finalize this tool at both a enterprise level, at a programmatic level, even a fund level, to be able to enable companies, programs, funds to better articulate the impact that they are making. So in the coming year, we hope in the Northern Hemisphere spring to be able to have completed this framework, and the inputs that we're getting here, the questions we are getting here, help our partners and ourselves to develop a better product in the end. And ultimately, for entrepreneurs especially, and for partners, is to come on board with GCIP, Global Cleantech Innovation Program, to be able to reap the benefits of such a standardized tool that both programs, funds, and ultimately entrepreneurs can use to their benefit in the end. So thank you to our panelists, Sanyang, Martin, Ram, and thank you to you all and Climate Tech Run for hosting us today. And hopefully, as entrepreneurs, as programs, you have gained a little bit of insight and We are very open to have a discussion further about this. There are a few of our colleagues here today. Thank you to panelists again. All the best. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
2, 3, 4.